power out for a moment. The last thing I recall happening was Seeker using his Tresem to determine whether Mrs. Bobkin had been poisoned. Do you remember asking me that?
Yes, and she was not.
And it was not poison.
And I asked you, and when you got cut off, I was in the middle of asking, is she in the process of like choking to death? Like, is she just having difficulty breathing, or is she actively like going to be? Is she actively suffocating?
And you got what, an 8 on your medicine check?
Yeah.
It looks like she's not in any immediate distress. She just looks like she passed out. It looks like she's breaking out in hives.
Right.
But she's not breathing with any difficulty, and Seeker doesn't find any poison. Very quickly, though,
Mordecai.
He motions Lucius to bring her downstairs.
Certainly. And I will absolutely do that.
Where did my revealer go? How do I always lose my revealer?
Because you color it the same color as your back as the thing here that you use.
To get downstairs to the servants' area, you actually have to go out this side door. Then there's another entrance along the outside of the house. As you're coming out that door, this dirty, muddy, wet little boy is tearing ass up to the house. And you and Mordecai are having difficulty enough carrying this woman downstairs. But you can see Mordecai stares daggers at this boy as he flies into the house. The rest of you guys, he doesn't even turn his head towards you as he darts through the dining room and up the spiral staircase. The dwarven couple and Aylesbury are sitting there, and they all are watching kind of concerned. And then Amner kind of tries to break the tension and says, well, I wasn't aware there was a show with this meal. And he goes back to finishing off his breakfast.
I don't think I'm hungry anymore.
And after just a minute, the boy once again tears down the spiral stairs and through the dining room and out the servants' door once again.
Was that boy carrying a giant armful of copper? What?
He was carrying something in each hand, but you couldn't tell what it was. Well, I don't know. What's your passive perception?
Not that high.
Okay.
What's the dude's name? The human that wasn't sleeping well?
Aylesbury.
Did he come down to eat?
He's down there eating with you guys. He's just been quiet throughout the meal.
Oh, he's been... I thought he made the snarky comment. Okay.
No, that was the dwarf. Amner. Lucius.
I don't...
Yeah.
You and Mordecai come down the stairs here into room number 24, which is the basement hall. This is the lower floor of the manor. It's only accessible from the outside. And where does he take you to? He takes you down through the southern stairwell. This door here is cracked open, and looking inside, you can see what's a commons area, a dining area for the servants.
Mm-hmm.
Takes you down these hallways, opens the door into this small storage room. And then into this small, sparsely furnished but cozy looking bedroom, where he lays Mrs. Bobkins down on the bed, and she's just starting to come to. And Mordecai assures her that the gallant and noble man of Udok rescued her from her fainting spell. And he retrieves a damp cloth and wipes away some sweat off of her brow. And he insists to you that Mrs. Bobkins only needs a few moments' rest, and that you should head back upstairs, and he will join you there momentarily.
Certainly.
Alex.
And Lucius will walk back out, lingering just long enough to get a good look down this hallway and into the commons area.
As you're doing that, you hear a voice from the stairs call out to you. It says, "Is Mrs. Bobkins okay?" And kind of startles you before you get a chance to look down the hallways. And looking back in this doorway, you see Nellie standing there, looking very concerned.
Mordecai just said she's just needs a few minutes of rest.
And Nellie nods and says, your friends are still upstairs. If you would follow me, please.
Certainly.
And as she leads you back up the stairs and back inside the house, she cranes her head back out of concern. But by this time, Mordecai has closed the door to 29. Alex, in the kennel.
Mm-hmm.
After less than a minute, the boy returns, and he has copper wool in each hand. And he hands you one of the lumps.
Okay.
And what do?
I'll start cleaning off bits of corrosion on the underside of Scrappy.
And as you set to work doing that, he follows your lead. Doesn't even ask for permission or anything. He just hunkers down and takes to the work as soon as you do. And he seems to relish in the task.
So what's your name?
He says his name is Biscuits.
And what do you do around here, Biscuits?
He says that he tends to the animals, he cleans things, does whatever Mrs. Bobkin says.
Are you Mrs. Bobkin's son?
That is a complicated question.
He says it in exactly that tone of voice.
He does. He says yes, but no, but yes, kind of.
Does she adopt you?
He says that he was an orphan boy, working with a caravan that was traveling through the woods. But his taskmaster was cruel. He never knew his parents, and as they were passing through, he decided to run away from the caravan and come back to Bicklebell House, where he was taken in by Mrs. Bobkins. So she's kind of like my mother now, as he's
That's good.
scraping the rust off of Scrappy.
So you work in the stables, or you work in the kennels?
Stables, kennels, out in the woods sometimes when I can get away.
What kind of things are out there? Anything interesting? I'm not from around here, so...
And he describes some of the local flora and fauna, tells you a variety of stories that he's heard from travelers coming through about monsters lurking around. He tells you that Toriath knows more about the woods than anyone.
Who's that?
Oh, Toriath is our trapper. She's the Fearbulg. She's upstairs right now because she hurt her leg.
Okay.
What's going on back in the dining room as Lucius returns?
Florian asks the guy, so what's your story?
Which guy?
The quiet guy.
Aylesbury?
Wasn't sleeping well. Aylesbury, yes. I'm getting Aylesbury confused with Bicklebell. Okay. Bicklebell, Aylesbury.
And
got it.
he kind of chokes for a second on a piece of half-chewed potato when you speak to him. He wasn't expecting to be addressed. So, just passing through.
Just passing through the woods.
So, well, the roads go somewhere, don't they? He gives the name of the village that he's traveling from. Some village on the eastern sides of the woods, and he's traveling through to the western sides.
Why?
So, well, I'm hoping to get passage on a ship, if truth be told.
Oh, yeah?
He says he's I'm an entertainer by trade. I'm a clown, you see. I'm hoping to find work in one of the big cities to the north.
You're a performer.
And he nods awkwardly and sheepishly. And at this, you can see Amner and Jimna both very entertained by the conversation. As though they've seen this explanation before and they're happy to see it again. Lucius and Nellie arrive at the table about this time.
I'm gonna ask Nellie that she mentioned upstairs that smoking isn't permitted in the guest rooms. If there's anywhere in the premises indoors that's permitted.
And she looks back at the door to make sure that the servants' door you entered hasn't been opened yet, kind of making sure that Mordecai is not following. And she says, "Truth be told, smoking is permitted anywhere you that Mordecai won't catch you.
Ah, I see. Thank you.
But
Lucius kind of...
I didn't tell you that.
Billiard. No, certainly not. Lucius kind of lingers next to the billiard table.
does anybody else require any other service for breakfast? Coffee refills, anything of that nature? Nellie is tending to all of these needs. Who's got the highest passive insight at this table?
Maybe me. I've got a 13.
Seeker.
I think it's Florian.
What do you?
Florian
You
is
have a 14?
Yeah.
Yeah, Florian.
Florian.
Because I can't believe that. Yeah.
Nellie is very good at her job. She's been doing this. I mean, she's only a teenager, but she's clearly been doing this her whole life, serving people. But you can tell she's paying extra special attention to Lucius throughout breakfast. Once or twice, you think you catch her giving him like the fluttering eyelashes. But back to Aylesbury. What would you like to know about him?
How long has he been at the manor?
He said he was traveling through the wood when the storm rolled in. This must have been 2 days past.
2 days. Okay.
The Edelcaps were already here, though.
Mm-hmm.
Amner acknowledges that is the truth.
Gus will like chime in over a mouthful of ham. So, where are you from originally?
To who?
And where? Oh gosh.
Aylesbury?
Yeah, Aylesbury.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Barry.
I remembered the Bury, but my brain, because of what he said earlier, my brain kept going Bixelberry.
He gives you
No,
the name of his village off to the east somewhere. It seems like he was born in a village pretty close to the wood, to the point where he would have been familiar with it for most of his life. But this is his first time actually traveling through it.
That's interesting. Does your village have anything information on the tower?
And he just affirms what you already know, that the tower can be seen from anywhere along the edge of the wood. And nobody from his village has ever attempted to reach it, and he's certainly not inclined to.
Do I get the sense that Aylesbury is performing being surprised and clumsy, and like, is he putting on his clown act now, or is this just who he is?
Make an insight check.
Yeah, I figured you were going to ask that. All right.
Is anything else exciting? Oh, actually, we're going to go back to the kennel in a moment here.
Plus insight is a 15.
A 15.
Yeah.
This boy has no business being a clown. But he doesn't know that.
Fair enough.
He's a clown.
This churning stomach, always sweaty, super nervous. This is just who he is.
Uh-huh. All right.
And at that point, Amner, you notice that Jimna doesn't say much. She's pleasant enough when spoken to, and she answers questions politely, but she always seems lost in thought, like her head's somewhere else. Amner is super chatty and begins asking you guys about your Trebles, why you're on the road, what you've seen, where you hail from. Does anybody mention that you are a detective service in Dunfoss?
I think we
Secret
have
does.
to. Yeah.
Seeker gives him a business card.
Very reasonable rates.
He takes a business card with great interest. This is Dunfoss. Why, I haven't been there since I was a child. I hear you have a dwarven king now.
Now?
If the rumors are to be believed, it won't be for much longer.
Has he taken ill?
Yes.
That's the rumor, anyway.
So I'm very
we
sorry to hear
saw-
that.
We saw him. Yeah, he's been... How long has he actually been king?
12
Yeah.
years.
12 years?
Okay.
Yep.
So, longer than I've been in town.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Alex.
Yeah.
Back out in the kennel. As you're working, you see Biscuit's face. You see this pall of death creep over. And you look over past him and you realize Mordecai is standing in the doorway to the kennel. And somehow, every time you catch a glimpse of this guy and he's framed in a doorway or a window, there's a peal of lightning behind him. Every time. And he looks very, very upset. And he's holding in both hands by the scruff of their neck 2 kittens. And he looks at Biscuits. And he says, "What were you told about bringing animals into Bicklebell House?" And Biscuits runs up and collects the kittens and offers a million apologies. And it becomes apparent to you that he's been hiding these cats in the house since the storm. And it's proximity to the cats that has caused an allergic reaction. In poor Mrs. Bobkins.
Right.
And there's some arguing back and forth between the two. Are you just staying out of it?
Yeah, I'm just staying out of it for now. I'll listen, but...
Okay. The agreement they reach is that he has to keep the kittens here in the kennel, so as not to exacerbate Mrs. Bobkins' allergies further. And make an insight check.
Yep. That's an insight of 3.
The boy has to bargain for this. He has, because Mordecai doesn't care about these cats. It becomes very clear. These cats are a nuisance to him. Mrs. Bobkins is highly allergic. Biscuits has broken the rules. Biscuits promises, swears up and down that he'll do extra chores if he can keep the cats here in the kennel. He won't bring them back in the house. And he says, I'll take care of Mr. Alex's badger the whole time he's here. I'll slop the kennels. I'll scrub it down. I'll tend to the rust. And Mordecai forces him to promise all of these things before he gives in, allows him to keep the cats in the kennel. At which point Mordecai turns to you and says, "I trust the care of your creature is adequate."
Oh, it's exceptional, actually. Don't think he's been this happy since we left Dunfoss.
And he says, "Very good, sir." And then he takes his leave of you.
I wouldn't worry about him, Biscuits. Is there a free cage in the kennel?
There are several, yes. There aren't enough dogs to fill all the cages.
Alex will start pulling equipment from his bag of holding, and he'll start constructing a small cat pen in the corner of one of the free cages. Something more appropriate for kittens.
You are Biscuit's best friend in the world.
Biscuits is adorable, and I will die to protect him.
You just might.
At this point, Nellie, as Mordecai returns to the house, Mordecai and Nellie clear the breakfast dishes away. And what else is going on throughout the morning?
Gus is going to challenge Lucius to a game of billiards.
I've never played before.
Seeker's gonna go upstairs and ask the Furbolg if he wants him to bring him any breakfast.
Oh, Nellie already has.
Okay, great. Then I'm gonna just go upstairs and talk to her.
Okay, and when you go
if
up,
she's available.
Her door is open, and you can tell. You come up, it's like, oh, this looks awful orange up here.
Yeah.
And indeed, the light in the room is also orange. The dwarves are staying in this room here, which you haven't seen into yet. And shortly after breakfast, they retire upstairs to this kind of commons area.
Okay.
So yeah, looking into the Firbolg's room. She's awake in there. She looks out the doorway. She doesn't say anything to you. She's kind of watching.
I'll step in. I'll say I just wanted to introduce myself if we're going to be practically sharing a room.
She nods. She just says, "I'm Toriath.
I'm the Seeker in the Dark.
Sort of name is that?
A descriptive one.
Well, if you must know, they call me Clever Shot.
And Seeker nods. And he kind of looks around the room. Does she have any, like, personal effects kind of spread around the room?
Just what you see piled up on this table here. What bow and arrow, trapping gear. She has bright blue skin, gritty matted green hair, and she's even though she's in bed, she's still wearing her cloak. It looks like she's wearing her leathers. You surmise on her good foot she probably still has her boot. Her cloak is threaded with hedgehog spines.
And Seeker will say that's an interesting cloak decoration. Is there a meaning behind it?
She tells you, and this is a direct quote from my notes, that she is a devout adherent of Frulendulf, patron god of hedgehogs.
What kind of followings does he recommend?
What kind of what?
What kind of, like, what are his teachings?
Oh, go fast.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Sometimes you have to say the joke everybody wants to hear.
Yes.
Ow. I'm hurt.
Seeker,
Yeah.
make an insight check.
You got it.
Hello, police. I'd like to report a murder.
Oh, I'm
That
sorry.
would be a natural 20, so a 23.
She gives you some platitudes about living in harmony with nature, balance, standard druid stuff. You get the sense that she doesn't want to go deep into this topic because
Sorry. I just rolled my foresight dice, and I rolled my fourth natural 20 of the night.
nice.
Oh no.
Oh, you just rolled your foresight dice for today?
For the day, yeah.
What were those dice?
5 and 20.
Five and 20?
Uh-huh. So I see someone doing really poorly and someone doing extremely good.
She gives you some platitudes about like living in harmony with nature, standard druid kind of stuff. You get the sense that she doesn't want to go into detail with you, simply because she thinks you're only asking to be polite. You don't actually care about anything she believes in. And you also, with that nat 20, you get the sense that she doesn't have much use for city folk in general. Just you being here talking to her is making her feel very awkward.
Seeker kind of nods towards the bow and says, "You must spend a lot of time in the forest. We're here hoping to investigate the tower in the woods. I wouldn't suppose you know anything about it."
She affirms that her village is deep in the woods. She tells you that the tower is known to be an unsacred place. That people from her village are forbidden to go there. And she's had no use to break this taboo in her life. What business could you possibly have in a place like that?
What's the reason why? We heard that it was connected to Eldos somehow, but I don't remember why.
Modron friend is there.
Oh, right. I'll say, we heard that a companion of someone who we're investigating, you may have heard of them, they were known as Eldov, looks a couple hundred years ago, may still be residing there. We were hoping to speak with them.
She shakes her head. The name isn't known to her, but she tells you that after the rain clears, when the storm clears, she can lead you to a stream, which is the closest place that she knows to the tower. Very notably, she says, when the storm clears and not when my foot heals.
And the Seeker says, "Do you think the storm will be a while then?"
She says she expects the storm to break later tonight or perhaps tomorrow.
Huh. Well, I'm not going to pry into her foot at the moment.
Okay.
Probably because that'll break it further.
Seeker gets out a bone saw and some tongs. Like, all right, just give me a second.
Actually, no. You know what? I will pry a little further,
Okay.
and I'll say, well, we wouldn't want you to be walking on your foot.
She shakes her head and says, "It's no concern. If it wasn't for that meddling oaf of a woman, Bobkins, I wouldn't be tied up here like I am." You do notice amongst her personal effects, there is a wooden crutch as well.
And Seeker will kind of laugh at that and then say, "Oh, she's a bit over careful." I understand.
She nods, and for the first time, you feel like she feels like she found some common ground. What's happening downstairs? Who's playing pool?
Has Gustavus ever played billiards? Because Lucius hasn't.
I mean, Gus has spent a lot of time in bars. So probably yes.
But he doesn't remember.
The question is yeah, like
Is the hearth going?
Yes, Mordecai, the hearth is going as well as it can. I mean, they have some kind of flue or
Yeah.
something above, so the rain doesn't pour in through the chimney. But there are spatterings of rain coming in from time to time. But yes, Mordecai has ensured that the hearth is blazing. And he and Nellie have made themselves available for whatever you need during the day.
Florian is by the hearth then.
Florian, do you want to come learn how to play billiards?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I'm gonna just show them both how to play 8-ball.
Okay.
But why do you go in order? What does that make?
It's the
Why do you
rules.
have to rack? Why do you have to rack the balls like that?
Because it's the rules.
What if we rack the balls a different way?
Then it's not 8-ball.
Is anybody else doing anything before the midday meal today? Any other morning actions?
I want to kind of investigate the house because Seeker was talking about how he wanted to leave, and then there was an ominous peal of thunder, and now he suspects his god is fucking with him.
You have angered the Hedgehog Lord. All right, what does Seeker want to poke around at?
For not going fast enough.
Is this the third floor?
This
Down
is
here in
this
the
is the
lower
basement level.
Basement.
Third-
How much of the basement is accessible?
None to you. You'd have to go outside. You saw Lucius go out this door.
Yeah.
And go down to the basement level, but if you approach that door, Mordecai interjects. And not impolitely, just in his kind of accusatory way that makes you feel like your hand's in the cookie jar. Wanting to know what it is he can do for you if you need anything. You need only let him know.
And Seeker nods and says, "I would appreciate a tour of the building. Old buildings are kind of an interest of mine."
But of course, follow me. And he leads you away from the outside door. And he tells you the stories of each of the rooms in the house, the origin of the billiards table, how it was built by forest gnomes, how the game was invented by such and such a duke or duchess 300 some odd years ago. He tells you the story of the elven blacksmith that made the weapons in this case, the story of all the different vineyards and whatnot that have provided liquors for the cabinet. Through this door and this door are the kitchens in the back. These are, of course, off limits to guests. If you need anything from the kitchens, you need only but let him know. Taking you upstairs, he takes you through the house, showing you pretty much everything that there is to see.
What rooms does he keep me away from?
He doesn't take you into this room here because that's where the dwarves are. Let me take a look at my cheat sheet here. That is the master bedroom. When the Bicklebells were alive, that was their room.
Are the dwarves currently in the common rooms?
Yes, they're here in 13.
I ask if they mind me taking a look at their room because I'm kind of interested in old architecture.
And they
And I tell them,
simultaneously answer. Amner says, "That's fine, go ahead." And Jimna says, "Oh, please don't." And then they just kind of look at each other. And Mordecai says, "Shall we continue the tour?"
and Seeker nods.
And he takes you into the orange room. And Exchanges some quick pleasantries with Toriath. And kind of explicitly doesn't explain anything about the Orange Room. Of course, the Dull Room, you already know.
I'm well acquainted with the doll room, thank you. We don't need to spend too much time there.
He tells about how this room was converted into a guest room because they didn't have enough rooms to accommodate all of the travelers they were receiving. This room is a storage closet, so nothing much to see here. And then the attic is mostly storage, but one is a permanent guest room, and another one has been... And he opens... Actually, no, he wouldn't open this door. He would only bring you up into 19 and no further. Without permission from the guests therein, meaning Alexander.
All right, thank you.
Anything else happening this morning?
Florian is continuing to annoy Gustavus with questions about billiards.
Okay.
And Gus is just answering them like you would a small child. Why? Because this,
All I am saying, Gustavus, is that rather than have the holes on the side of the table, what if the holes were in the table itself?
Then it wouldn't be billiards.
But you would have a much more interesting game. Much more fun game.
Well, I tell you what. When we get back, you can have somebody build one of these tables, and we'll come up with a game for it, okay?
Well, how does Alex spend the morning? Do you come back to the house?
No, I'm building this cat enclosure.
Okay. How long is that going to take?
Probably. I mean, he's going to do a really good job of it. So yeah, I can see basically until it's time for the midday meal.
Okay. Make an insight check.
That's a 18.
18. You can tell as you're building, Biscuits is helping you with this enclosure, fetching tools as needed, doing what needs to be done. But you can tell that he's preoccupied with something. He keeps glancing towards the doorway of the kennel, and you kind of have to keep getting his attention.
What do you expect to come in through that door, Biscuits?
And he says, "Oh, I thought I saw something outside, but I think it was just a trick of the lightning." And he's always excited to get back to work. You said Scrappy for a walk?
Go take a look.
Take a look.
Let me know if there's anything out there.
Where do you direct Scrappy to go in relation to the house?
Just out toward, do a patrol around the house.
Okay.
Just do a circle around the outer wall.
Okay. So the structures, and I apologize for not having a map of the whole hill, but the house is on the center on the hill, all enclosed in this white wooden wall, with only one gate, the one that you came in up front. Starting at the kennel, which is out back behind the house, and going clockwise, you pass by the very large stables. Then you come around the front of the house. Coming around the other side, you pass the well house, and then the cemetery, and then you come back around to the kennels. And have Scrappy make me a perception check, please.
Yep.
He doesn't have anything special. Well, he didn't have dark vision. Let me ask that.
I believe he does have dark vision. Dark vision 6. That
Okay.
perception check is a 8.
An 8. Doesn't see anything out of place. And as you're working over the course of the next few hours, Biscuits has to take his leave once or twice. Once to go out to tend to some chores that he has in the barn, or in the stables rather, and then later on in the morning, Mordecai shows back up to explain that as Mrs. Bobkins is still resting, that Biscuits is going to have to help prepare the midday meal. And he tells you that lunch will be served at 12 o'clock. And he looks very disapprovingly at the construction that you've done inside of the kennel, but he doesn't say anything about it.
I mean, I'll haul back in at that point. I figure at that point it should be pretty good.
Okay. And as you guys are playing billiards inside over the course of the morning, eventually Nellie also is told that she has to prepare the midday meal. She tears herself away from Lucius. She's hanging on his every word about how to play this game.
Lucius has no idea how to play this game.
He's just making stuff up.
Oh, I
No,
thought
he's
Lower.
listening very dutifully to Gustavus and following his advice.
So basically, Gus is like, you do this, and then Gus is just, and then he's just repeating it to Nelly, I guess. That's funny. Anyway,
Gus and Lucius
Mhm.
make me either a dexterity check or an intelligence check. You pick. This is supposed to see who wins more games over the course of the morning.
that is a natural 20 plus 1, so 21.
That's only 17 for me.
Lucius,
Yo,
Nelly praises your every shot, and even though you lose more games to Gus than you win, she assures you constantly that she thinks that you've played the better game, that you would have won if not for this one or two, like a lucky shot on Gus's part. She's very clearly paying you more attention than anybody else, and Mordecai eventually has to tear her away from you so she can go cook the midday meal in Mrs. Bobkin's stead.
Gus looks at Florian, and then like he makes smooching noises, like, and points at the girl.
Florian raises an eyebrow.
Lucius raises an eyebrow as well. I don't know how to tell. I don't know how to tell her that. Tell the poor girl.
Round about 12 o'clock, Mordecai comes back up, announces that lunch will be served, heads upstairs to fetch the dwarves. Mrs. Bobkins is still downstairs resting. Mordecai assures everyone that the swelling is subsiding, that she's feeling something like herself again, but that he's advised her to take the rest of the afternoon and rest. Nelly and Biscuits serve the lunch, which is terrible. Nelly cannot cook. Amner politely pokes at his food. Jimna insists that she's still full from breakfast. Toriath has come down late in the morning and taken up a chair in front of the fire. And she eats the lunch there in front of the hearth. She seems to have no complaints.
Seeker surreptitiously uses prestidigitation to make his food taste better.
Gus just eats his without saying a word.
Yeah,
So
Alex too.
Nelly,
Just looking at the furbolg.
she doesn't ask directly, but she is very curious as to how Lucius enjoys the food.
A
Yeah,
taste
Lucius,
I'm
how
not
is it?
accustomed to. A taste I'm not
Alex will cut in.
accustomed
Yeah, no, Lucius usually tries to drown his stuff in spices.
So, how is Lucius reacting to the food?
politely, not saying, "Oh, this is." He's not like actively saying, "Oh, this is the worst thing I've ever tasted."
So I'll ask this: does Lucius enjoy the food or not?
Not really.
Okay, make a deception check. But you're trying to spare her feelings.
You can't beat this small child.
I might not be able to. That's a 7 all told.
7. All right. Well, you beat her.
Oh,
So she is delighted that you've enjoyed the lunch and gives you a second helping.
oof.
Gus is going to get Alex's attention and points at the furbolg.
Mhm.
And says, and like Seeker, and like, what's her story? Like, how long has she been laid up in here?
Is she still here, or?
She said she came down here, didn't
Yeah,
she?
she's down eating her lunch in front of the
Oh,
house,
okay.
down on here. She's come down on her crutch.
Seeker
Probably
shrugs and
because-
says,
Mrs.
Trapper.
Bodkin's laid up. affords her a little more freedom to move about, eh?
Are you asking her?
Nah.
Okay.
Never mind.
Gus is going to go over and ask if she would like to play some cards or something to pass the time.
She shakes her head politely, doesn't say anything, but
Cards, that's my game.
Gus, before you go, I'm just a gnome, so I don't really need all this food. Do you want some?
No, and I'll pat him on the head. You're still a growing boy, and I'm gonna walk away.
I hate crime.
so
What's the Furbolg's name again?
Toriath.
Taurus, do you want me to see if I can do something about that leg? I might be able to get some alchemical salves that might actually be a little bit faster than trying to let it mend on its own.
No, well, that's a microaggression.
She shoots you dagger eyes.
Mhm.
She says that I have to look up the name of her god because it's preposterous.
Sonichu.
Sanic.
Sonic.
Oh,
Frulendoof. Frulendoof teaches that time is the best healer. And
Yes.
you can tell just from the short interaction there, that she is intensely distrustful of magic of any kind. Be it alchemy or wizardry. She probably doesn't even like the lights in here very much.
Well, as somebody who once stepped in a bear trap and had a broke leg, I can tell you that, and I'll point at him, he heals a lot better than time.
She tells you kind of fitfully that it's Mrs. Bobkin's doting more than the injury that's keeping her pinned down here.
Did you break your leg, or we can't can we see the injury? Is it visible?
It's bound up tightly, and you can see where the bandages are the cleanest part of her by far.
Mhm.
She tells you that there are poachers all throughout the woods, that the people of her village and the other Firbolg and Gnome villages throughout the woods are constantly at odds with. And she wounded her foot in a poacher's trap recently and limped her way to the house here to have it tended to.
So you're actually from how famous is this place? Because this is the first we've heard of it, and we asked around a bit.
Are you asking about her village or about this house?
The house. She said she limped here to get help. So that means it's a known quantity to her and her village?
She says that most of her people steer clear of it. The Firbolgs and Gnomes have little use for the house. But when she was a girl, she made friends with a huntsman who was on staff here named Danehart. And he taught her how to hunt and trap, fire a bow. And after he died of illness a few years ago, agreed to stay on as huntswoman for the old mansion in his honor. So she delivers meat and furs to the house periodically. But this is the first time she's actually stayed here for any length of time.
Oh. That makes me significantly less suspicious about the place, at least.
A little while after Nellie and Mordecai clear away the afternoon meal, there's a loud banging throughout the house, and Mordecai goes to approach the front door. Where is everybody when this happens?
Is there a smoking lounge?
No.
And smoking isn't permitted inside the building?
Depends on who you
Not
ask.
Mordecai is a big...
What if I stand next to the hearth and let the smoke go up the chimney?
As long as you don't let Mordecai see you, nobody's going to bother about it. Do you attempt it?
No, I'll go out on the balcony.
Okay.
And I'll get myself a nice heavy cloak.
As you head out to the balcony, walking past this door here, you hear a loud bang from inside the room.
Mm-hmm. I'll put my ear against this wall. This door? Does any other sound coming in afterwards?
You hear some frantic shuffling inside, perhaps, but it's the loud bang that
I'll
punctuates
knock on
it.
the door and yell, call out, is everything all right in there?
You hear Aylesbury inside. Says, everything's fine. Thank you for asking. Don't come in.
Do you need any help?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
I mean, really, anything at all? Magical, physical, guns, armor?
What are guns?
All right, then. Well, let me know. And I'll lean out over the rail and smoke a cigarette.
Those of you still in the house hear the loud bang, and Mordecai approaches the front door. The man that comes in, Mordecai brings into the room, sopping wet, head to toe. He's a pale man, a human, with angular features, who wears a big, floppy, wide-brimmed hat, and puffs on a long pipe, which Mordecai admonishes him for as he comes in. His skin is very pale, but he has a wine-colored stain covering the left part of his face, disappearing up into his white hair on his head, up above his wide-brimmed hat, which he takes off of his head and starts to wring out in the veranda before he comes inside. This wine-colored stain disappears down into his shirt, but you can see that it reappears down along his arm and spreads out across the back of his left hand. And he looks into the room and takes a good measure, and he sees Gus, Lucius, and Florian. Seeker, are you sitting there at the table?
Yeah.
And he grins widely, and you've seen this man before.
Wait a minute.
And as this is happening, as he's gazing over the room and grinning at you with recognition, and you're all coming to terms with who's standing there, Mordecai is going through his spiel about how he's going to have to find a straw mat, but that House Bicklebell won't turn him away, etc., etc.
You would do well to turn this man away.
Mordecai says,
very angrily,
Bicklebell House will turn no one away in such a storm. We will find a place to put you. What are you called? And the man says, Vladislav, at your service. And he bows deeply. He's admonished for showing up too late to enjoy a midday meal. But nonetheless, Mordecai sets to work, getting him set up in the house. And he approaches the billiards table as Mordecai is taking his wet boots and hat to downstairs to be cleaned. He looks out over the table. The geometry of this game has always fascinated me.
I'm certain it has.
It's all about finding the correct triangles, wouldn't you agree?
I just hit the balls with the stick.
Says finding the right angle on a situation is the key to success in any game. But there are so many angles to consider.
Seeker,
Lucius is
opera
letting him talk.
whispers across the room. He's talking in metaphor.
What was Lucius saying?
Lucius is just staring across the billiards table at him.
What's
Like-
Florian and Gus's response?
He's got his hand on the tome hanging at his side.
Okay.
Is this like because I don't remember this character? Is this somebody we've ran into before?
Oh yeah.
This is the guy who this is the asshole who had those people chained up in the sewers.
Oh, it is
And-
him.
Yeah.
Okay. At that case, Gus would probably draw his weapon on this man.
How soon? Before or after Mordecai leaves the room?
After
After? Okay.
I'll be like,
And he takes a big step away from the billiards table, and he holds his own hands up. And there's a clatter as his pipe hits the floor. But he doesn't stop grinning. And this just bizarre red color on his forearm and the palm and back of his hand. You didn't get a good look at the man before in the darkness of the sewers, but now you can see that even though he's human, he has very strange features all over his face and body. And he says, now, is that any way to greet an old friend?
Friend is not the word I would choose.
Murder victim is probably more in line, I think. And I'm going to like step towards him.
Okay. Are you going to start hitting him with your sword?
Are you, unless somebody talks me out of it, probably yes.
Gustavus, stop.
I mean, he's